Hey, Mike. What time is it, Mike?
It's time to talk, Curtis. So, in today's episode, we had the pleasure of interviewing Edward McGowan.
Mac?
Goes by
Fondly
Mac.
referred to
Yeah.
Mac?
A friend of mine, a friend of Curtis's in the company we work for. And he's very passionate about leadership. So we hope you enjoyed the interview. And here we go with Mac.
Right.
All right.
Hey,
Well,
here we are.
Yeah, welcome
to another edition
of Leadership Trait Talk with Mike Self and Curtis Jetzel.
Yes.
And we're here in the Jetzel Studios in Arlington, Texas. And we are Zoom meeting with Ed McGowan. He goes by Mac. And we're very glad to have you, Ed.
Yeah, welcome, Mac.
Welcome to Leadership Trait Talk. Talking straight
About leadership traits.
Here we go.
Love it. Thanks, you, man. I appreciate that.
Tell us a little bit about your background, Mac.
Please.
Sure. So I'm hailed in Orlando right now.
Okay.
Sunny Orlando, sunny. It's raining and pouring outside, which delayed our launch. But I'm in Orlando, Florida. I've been in the security business for 40 years. Going on 18 years with the current company where I'm a security director, and 22 years in the United States Air Force. I was a security policeman in the Air Force for 22 years. I've worked at multiple sites in the Air Force, from headquarters at the Pentagon. Even though I was in San Antonio, I worked for the Pentagon, lived in Hawaii. My career has taken me all over the globe. I've lived overseas, 25 years of international experience, 10 years of living overseas in multiple countries. And I've moved. I retired from the Air Force not to move. And since I've joined my company that I'm currently in 18 years, I've moved 4 times. So that's in a nutshell, that's me.
Best intentions, right?
Yeah, thank you for your service, Ed.
Of course.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
We're excited to have you too.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So coming in today's interview, I thought maybe, I heard a recent interview that you did on another podcast, which this is your second time, so you're a pro at this.
Right.
But you talked about hiring, and it really resonated with me. And, I've noticed in today's world, people come from all types of backgrounds. Fortunately, there's a lot of diversity in the hiring, which is great.
Yeah.
And you made a comment about a person that you hired in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to talk about that, but I also want to talk about, the quality of person that you're looking at. What really resonates with you as a hiring manager? A lot of the folks that we're trying to reach out to are leaders, and they're,
They have to hire, right?
You have to hire.
Yeah.
And it's really one of the hardest things, because regardless of the amount of time you can spend on it, it tends to be very short duration to the lifetime that you begin with an employee coming into the company. So just your thoughts and structuring that, insights.
Yeah, so you both know that we post a position for our company and we'll get hundreds of resumes. So we rely on the HR folks to purge through those to get us, quote unquote, the most qualified candidates. And you can get a resume that's solid and you'll get multiple, right? So we traditionally whittle it down to the top 3 to 5 so that we can have a diverse background of candidates relative to their skills. Right. Sometimes I don't necessarily look at hiring a person who has all the skills that I'm looking for. From the leadership perspective, if somebody comes with that, certainly we're looking for somebody who has some of that background, solid, sustained background of excellence. That's really what I focus on. I don't necessarily focus on the individual who can meet every single qualification within the requisition. Yeah. I'm more apt, especially today, we have so many people who are qualified and willing to take different opportunities in disciplines that they may not even have their degree in.
Right.
And we don't have an industrial security degree. You have a criminal justice degree, right? I have a criminal justice degree, and I have an HR and training degree. So my master's degree is in training and development, right?
Right.
But there is no industrial security. So for me, it's when I meet the candidate, what can they bring to us from their background, from a sustainability perspective? Show me what you've done in your past through your resume. And it's a piece of paper, but you also have to articulate it to me when you're in the interview process with the willingness to be able to be committed to the job that you're going to be hired for, and the desire to do it.
So are there characteristics that you look for in a candidate? Once you've narrowed it down, you've got to your 4 candidates, let's say. And when you start that face-to-face or now Zoom virtual interview process, what are you looking for? What are the nuggets that really stand out for you as a leader that you've seen successful results from in your history?
Yeah, some of them that you can't measure is the integrity of the individual and their work ethic, right? The work ethic is a big, big thing to me that you are not necessarily able to put on a piece of paper. So it's the work ethic that really, really means a lot to me. And that doesn't mean that the person has to sit in front of us as a panel and say, I'll do 60 hours a week to get the job done. That's not necessarily it. It's what have you done with that work ethic? And that work ethic also has to do with building the team to be able to do the work that needs to get done. I like to look at what, in a leader's perspective, show me what you've done to develop your employees that work for you. How have you developed your employees? How do you create succession planning? Show me how you've done that. Articulate how you've done that, because that's the biggest piece that we do. I'm not, for me, it's the biggest. I'm looking for people to take my place.
Right.
How have you been able to do that? So it's the ability to develop their employees and growing individuals throughout the organization that I think is a good measurement if they're able to articulate it. But the integrity obviously is a big thing for me. The ethical piece is really, really big, and the work ethic that they're able to bring to the table. But I would focus a lot on how they're developing the skills of their employees that work for them.
So let's go back to the ethics and integrity piece. What is it that you use in an interview process that has helped you kind of gauge that, giving you perspective on that?
Yeah, I think that's a tough question, Mike. I'm not, even though I'm a trained investigator way back in the day, right? I can't sit there and say, well, the guy looked up at the left-hand corner of the office, so he's lying to me, right?
Or what do you mean?
Yeah, you really have, it's a judgment call, Mike. When you're speaking with somebody, I like when candidates pause before they answer and don't answer right away.
Right.
But if they're thinking too long, I'm okay with the dramatic pause. I'm okay so that they can get their mind together.
Right.
But I think after doing it for so many years, you kind of get the sense.
Yeah.
You kind of get the sense, that might not necessarily be the case. But I think that's probably the hardest piece, especially for an external candidate. We have a huge advantage for those employees that are internal to our own corporation.
Exactly.
Right.
It's the external candidates that, and I will tell you, my network, the business that I'm in, it's a very, very small network. So you'd be surprised. I can reach back to people from years ago and say, hey, do you know Mike? Do you know Curtis? And oh yeah, I remember them from this time.
Yeah.
And obviously people change, but it's amazing how the referral process works outside for those people that, I don't let a candidate know, oh, I know Curtis and Mike, I'm going to give them a call.
Right.
I know that you've worked in that company, I'm going to give them a call because I know Curtis and Mike. It's a very small network.
Right.
Yeah.
And I get feedback
that is a great way. I've actually used that through LinkedIn. Like I'll find a candidate and I'll look through if we have any connections, and that's amazing. Yeah. It's like, oh, I know this person, and I've actually done that. And it does make it.
Yeah. So that's probably a really good takeaway for our listeners, right? Is to focus on your network, right? Build a strong network.
Not just for you trying to get into other roles, but it's as potential candidates and that kind of thing.
Right.
And I've also used the technique when asking questions. Sometimes they give a very general, or it seems very specific question, either way. But if you drill in, if they don't have some details, that it's more of a made up answer than it is reality, right?
Yeah.
Because like what I'll say is, okay, well, tell me how you said you did this in front of the VP. Tell me what was his response.
Right.
And well, what actually wasn't me. It was my boss that was presenting it. Oh, your boss presented that, so it's how they spin the story and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So if you use, if you were to use the STAR method that we are used to,
Situation.
that's very common method now that a lot of people are using it. I know in my company now, in the business that I'm in, we've kind of gotten away from that. But that kind of solidifies it for you if the candidate is able to answer it the way you would like it, the STAR way, right? The situation, task, intended result.
Right.
And so if they do that and they're able to compact it and give you a good story with it, then you would feel pretty comfortable with them too.
Right.
Right.
And digging into those results, I think, is when you really get the essence of, what a person's made of. And,
what they were able to accomplish.
And you can ask questions, on your work ethic piece, like, well, how much time did that take you? And if they're like, well, I had to put in extra hours to get this done, but I was so determined to, accomplish this, that kind of thing. But, it's all a balance, because then you also don't want the person that's going to work has no work-life balance. So
yeah, right. But the other thing is, what I find interesting is I'll reach out to people that say, hey, do you know somebody who is looking for a position in classified cybersecurity? And I may get a recommendation for someone that worked for somebody that I know 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Right.
So it's amazing how you're almost interviewing for jobs in your future that you don't even know about.
Yeah.
A lot of them are through referral, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
How difficult is it to get into the major corporations these days? Very, very difficult.
Yeah.
But if you know someone and you've got that network or your past performance that somebody was familiar with, they may reach out to you before you even know that you're looking for a job.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's another great takeaway, right? Leaders, actually everyone's constantly building their reputation.
Yeah. Build your network.
Build your network.
Constantly build your network.
Build your reputation, because it could be speaking today for something that may benefit you or not years from now, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Ed, before we went live, you were talking about a couple things that you mentioned that were stand out for you. For us, I think you were talking about the candidate you hired. You said she had a couple of things that. Will you share that again? What were those? That
story, if you don't mind.
Yeah, and it's funny how that story just popped up. And when I think about it and reflect on where she's at today, it's such a great story. So we were looking for an entry-level security professional into the company, and we didn't have we didn't have a candidate internally that fit that bill. Mm-hmm. So we were having to go to external candidates. And we looked at this one resume, and I'm like, it's got a strong background, but let me see. So we interviewed this woman who had absolutely zero experience in industrial security. She had a marketing in the radio business in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but she had an undergraduate degree in criminal justice, and she was an already experienced professional in the workforce. And through a series of questions, I learned that she is driven, that she was going to be coachable, and that she was looking for something to do. She had a drive.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Just, it's the person who's going to shoot hoops, 100 baskets a day just to get better. She just had that it factor. And after we got done interviewing and I really looked at her resume, I said, I'm not even sure we can afford this woman, but she's so good. We've got to take a chance. She's probably not even going to take the job. Mm-hmm. Fast forward, she wound up taking the job. That was, I probably won't do her any service. Maybe let's call it 8 years ago. She's moved up at lightning speed. She's left the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and she's up at our corporate office in a security lead position. And great story. And it was purely driven by her desire to learn and to be a sponge on everything, right? Come to the trainer and let me know what you need to know. And by the way, do the self-paced stuff, learn on your own, which was a huge, huge benefit, because in today's world, I always say you have to read to become an expert in what you do.
Yep.
And come to me after you understand what the basic fundamentals are, and I can I can tweak it for you.
Right.
It's fantastic.
Well, yeah. And you can hire an expert, but if they're not willing to learn or have that learning acumen, they'll come in, they won't create the relationships they need. They won't learn the way the company does it. You really fall short. So that learning acumen or that
Yeah.
that willingness to learn and really put in the time is a big factor.
And having the mind of a beginner.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
exactly
Even
Well,
though you're an expert.
right. And that's what we talked about before, where if you find that candidate that's been doing what I've been doing for 40 years,
Mhm.
I've got tunnel vision, right?
Right.
Picture might not be that wide.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm okay with taking a chance on somebody. Now, in a leadership position, I'm not going to take a chance on a college hire, an entry level to be a
Right.
leader.
Right.
You've got to have some skins on the wall and some background, and especially the business that we're in, where you can have people all over the world. We all know.
Right.
I had people that work for me in Japan. That's tough,
Right.
and if you're going to be looking to hire somebody internationally, you better be a good leader, because you got to stay in contact with them often to make
Right.
sure
Right.
you're doing the right thing. So
Well, let's
Right.
talk about that. So, in today's world, COVID-19, we're doing a lot of virtual, but
Yep.
that's an experience where a person's across the ocean.
right.
It's not like you can just drop in and check on them. So there's a time delay, all that kind of thing. So can you tell us, things you did to enhance that, to create that relationship, that connection?
Yeah, the 13-hour separation was just a time for me. I was committed. The mission that we had there is too important. I had to stay connected to that person. He was the security person on the site, a huge responsibility. He knew that he can call me at any time, and I think that was the most important piece. I wasn't an absent leader. I was very
Right.
connected to him. We established a time to meet, but I don't. If we're going to meet every time at 6 o'clock in the afternoon Central Time, and it's 8 o'clock in the morning your time, if you decide to call me at 9 o'clock Central Time PM, it's 9 o'clock Central Time PM, right?
Right.
Right.
I was
Right.
available for him, and by the way, for the rest of the team that was there.
Mhm.
So there was the commitment from me, knowing that he was separated, and quite candidly, having the ability to recognize, because I've lived in Japan, but I lived in Japan on a military installation. They
Right.
lived in Japan, amongst the Japanese
Civilians.
community.
Right.
It's
Yes.
a totally different world, and I respected that. So I was probably more apt to give him more time, just because I understood the environment that he was in. And so
Right.
it's important for me to make sure that he was comfortable. Otherwise, he's coming home early, and we've all failed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So clearly you were putting his needs before your own.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
And that just
Yeah.
shows great leadership.
Which is
Mac,
another
it really is. It's
key
one of
thing,
those,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
The best
Yeah.
leaders are those that really care.
Yeah, that's very, very important to me. I am very happy where I'm at. I have been very happy where I'm at for a very, very long time. And I say this without trying to be cute or anything. When I say that it's all about people that are coming up below me to take my position,
Yeah.
I'm secure enough to be good with that.
Right.
I'm okay with that. And we know that some folks aren't. And so, you build the confidence of your employees when they know he's telling me as much as he can give me, because he's not insecure on where he's at.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
And I think that's a big message.
That's a great point.
It is. It's a big one.
Good lesson for any leader out
Yeah,
there to apply. that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, Mac, it's been a pleasure. I'm so glad you took the time to spend with us today and share your thoughts on leadership. And
Yeah, we've got quite a few nuggets out of this conversation.
yeah, it really has been good.
Yeah.
And to all our followers, this is our new YouTube channel / approach to these
Yeah.
podcasts. So any suggestions, comments, things that we could do better,
Wide open.
we know that you're having to look at us now, so we're sorry about that.
Yeah, makeup is not one of them.
Right. Yeah.
I don't have a makeup person here.
It's it is what they get. Right.
Right.
That's right. That's right.
So,
it's-
Mac, any last words before we go?
No,
pieces of-
No, I'm honored to be part of it. Thank you very much. Leadership is my passion. And if we can help develop anyone with those little nuggets that you described, Curtis, hey, it can be the beginning of people's future in learning and being a leader.
All right.
Absolutely.
That's great. All right,
Mac, thanks for your time.
Thanks.
I
All right.
appreciate it. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, Mike. So we had
That was a good
really
interview.
a number of really good nuggets came out of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we actually wrote them down.
That's right.
So we
took some notes.
can talk about
Summarize it a little bit.
right.
Here.
So one of the big points he made was so we talked about hiring candidates,
Right.
and really how to zero in and find that person. And he said there's a quality, sustained excellence.
Yeah.
Finding a person that can really sustain excellence is great.
Right. Over time was
Yeah.
really important. Another one was learning agility.
Mm-hmm.
And having a candidate that can demonstrate that they're willing to learn, they're coachable.
Right.
Right.
And we should do a podcast about that.
Okay.
Because
Let's do it.
Well-
Should we do it now?
no,
Okay.
we'll save it.
Sorry.
We'll
right.
we'll not belabor this.
All right.
But I think it is important as leaders that you remember that you're always learning.
Yeah.
And it's not just in the 40 plus hours you put in at work.
Right.
It's-
He made that
it's
point.
on your own.
Yeah. He said, learn on your own.
Right.
Right. Which I find today, sometimes there's a resistance to.
Exactly.
We're so busy in our lives. We're so, because of our, what's going on,
Whatever
what
reason.
we're doing.
Yeah.
There's a resistance to learn on our own. And I think that's a key point he made.
Exactly.
Learn on your
yeah.
own. Yeah.
I think it was an excellent point.
Network. Build your network.
Yeah, one of the comments he made was every day you interview for a job for the future.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great point.
Right.
Because you never know the people that you've made impressions on could be on that interview panel,
Right.
could be the hiring manager,
Right.
could know the hiring manager and be able to get a word in for you.
Yes.
So that is really, really key.
Constantly building your network.
Yeah.
He talked also about remote leadership and being a leader remote and how he was always available.
Yeah, in Japan,
First
13
thing-
hours difference.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
not like you can say, hey, I'll call you before I get off at 5 o'clock. 'Cause, for them, that's way earlier. So I think that's so interesting.
Right.
It's
I think the thing that I took away from that was he put the team's interest and needs above his own.
right, obviously.
He said, I'm always available, even though they had some defined rhythm. He was willing to be outside that, right?
Well, and what
be
does that
available.
do for the team? That makes them feel like they actually have somebody that cares.
Right.
Right. And that,
Even though he's
that
across
is
the
so,
world.
Yeah, that's so critical that you don't feel like you're out on an island and
Yeah.
no one will ever pay attention. So.
He had another takeaway about how important it is for leaders to develop their people
Mhm.
and be okay and confident enough and secure enough in your place that you're developing people that are going to replace you.
Yeah. You could be working for them one day.
Right. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
great interview with Mac, and I
Yeah.
really do appreciate his time.
Yeah. Hope you enjoy.
And remember, find us on Instagram under Leadership. I had to look. I'm sorry. Leadership Trait Talk.
Right. Follow us for updates to the podcast.
Yeah, and we'll have postings onto our YouTube channel, and we'll send things out via LinkedIn and everything else. So
Yeah. So if you like what you see, go ahead and subscribe. We'd love for you to subscribe and
Please.
share. Thanks for joining us.
all right.
All right, Mike.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.